Winx Club is nearing its 20th year anniversary. That's a long time, and I've pretty much been there since the very beginning. It's been quite a journey, and somehow it's still going. Whether or not you believe that it should have stopped by now is another story, but regardless, it's here to stay. Season 8 of Winx Club was pretty decisive for a lot of fans. It seemed to cling to a younger target demographic based off of the art style, and the way villains were characterized as well. And then the major shift in art direction was also a huge turnoff for a lot of people. And there were similar issues with Netflix's Fate, but in the opposite direction. Things felt too mature without feeling like the show earned it in any way. But even though a lot of Winx fans haven't been happy with the current direction of Winx, to be fair, there are quite a few fans of Fate and Season 8 as well. So clearly, it wasn't a complete failure. I haven't seen Fate personally, and I really don't want to. It doesn't seem like my kind of show, but I did give Season 8 a chance. I made a video on it if you're interested. I thought it was okay. There were things I hated about it, mostly the first half, but there were also things that I genuinely liked. So I had some kindle of hope for the next season of Winx Club. Which is what brings us here today. I'd like to go over all the info we have on the upcoming season of Winx Club and share my thoughts. And I'd love to hear from you all too. Hello, I'm Rosie Vision. I like to take a look at entertainment through rose-tinted glasses, because we all deserve some magic in our lives. Also, P.S., it is really, really windy today, and this is kind of the only day I have to record for quite a while. Hopefully, the noise reduction plugin I'm using is doing its job, but if you hear wind in the background, that's why. Okay, so what do we know so far? Well, we don't have an official premiere date as of this recording. From what I could see, it seems like it's either gonna be premiering 2023 or 2024. When I looked into when it would be starting, most sources seem to think that it'd be 2023. However, there is speculation that it could be pushed back to 2024, since that'll be Winx Club's 20th year anniversary. Which does make sense, but as far as I'm aware, there isn't an official source for this, so we'll just have to hold on tight to see which year it'll be. However, I do believe that we will be getting, at the very least, a teaser at some point next year. We also know that this is going to be another reboot of the series, kind of similar to Season 8. However, Season 8 was a soft reboot, so it sort of continued the story, but it kind of picked and chose which pieces to keep and which ones to get rid of. However, this is being marketed as a reboot, so it's probably gonna be much more intense than Season 8 was. And speaking of which, like Season 8, there is also a change in art direction. This is going to be the first Winx Club series that'll be in complete CGI. Also, we know that the episodes will be shorter, so each episode will be 13 minutes each. However, from what I could find, we also know that there's going to be 52 episodes. So if you do the math, it's essentially the same as a normal season of Winx Club. This runtime is similar to other series that Rainbow has done, including 44 Cats and Pop Pixie. But these were two shows that were aimed at younger kids, so this has been a bit of a concern for some people. And besides some teaser images that I'm gonna pull up now, that's about all the information we have. So we're gonna go through all the images that I could find, and then I'll talk about some things I'm worried about, and then also some things that I have hope that Rainbow will be able to implement in this new reboot of Winx Club. So let's start with the casual outfits. The images, I tried to get the best quality that I possibly could. So some of these have been edited by fans in order to be higher quality because we really don't have that good quality of images yet since nothing too official has been announced yet. But I'll try to leave credit whenever possible. And there's also the watermarks that you can see as well. So let's start off with casual outfits for the upcoming season. One of the images we have is of the entire Winx Club gang in what we can only assume to be their dormitory in Althea. And this is an enhanced image by a fan since the original was very, very small in resolution. So already we can see with the style, it's kind of similar to Mystery of the Abyss. So the art style that we got in the Nick version of Winx Club when they started using CG. However, don't panic. From what I've seen, it looks like it's been polished a lot more. This actually looks pretty darn good to me. I don't know what they did. Probably subtle changes in the facial structures, so it looks less uncanny and just uncomfortable. And this actually looks pretty cute, if only the film before this could look as good. But one can only hope. That's in the past. Another thing that we noticed right away is that it seems to be more similar to the original style of Winx. So Aisha and Flora are back to the original skin tone that they had in the first few seasons of Winx Club, and also actually not just the first, like most of Winx Club. You know what I mean. Yeah, definitely a hot topic in the community, and I can see why. It's weird to see Aisha and Flora looking different than how we've known them for so long. And I'm not going to get into it too much. But luckily, it looks like we don't have to worry about that anymore in season 9. So that's one plus. Yay! Let's talk about the outfits themselves, shall we? I do not know much about fashion. I am an enthusiast. I have recently gotten really interested in it, and I'd love to be able to design my own stuff in the future since drawing's always been a hobby of mine, and now I really like breaking down outfits and seeing what makes them work, but I am but an amateur, so please forgive me. I guess we can go left to right, so let's start with Aisha. The first thing that I notice is actually with the styling rather than the outfit itself, since we can only see the upper half. I really like how her hair is done here. First off, it's in its long and luscious and curly look, kind of similar to how when she was first introduced, which looks great on her. And then this is more of a stylistic thing that you wouldn't be able to see in the 2D version of the show, but I love how you can see where her hairpins are, where the hair's being tucked in. That's extra attention to detail that is possible with the CG look, and it makes it look a lot cuter and slightly more realistic, but not in a bad way. Another thing that's more possible with this style of animation is the makeup. In the 2D version, you can really only see like a hint of eyeshadow, and then all their eyes kind of have the same eyeliner around them. There's not really much room for creativity there. It looks like that's kind of the case here with some slight exceptions. However, you can see the eyeshadow more clearly, which is definitely a plus. Same for the lip shade. And I think it's looking pretty nice so far. Now, for what we can see of her outfit, we have a nice pale blue top. It has some interesting cuts on the sleeves. It looks like the sleeves that you'd find on a normal t-shirt, but then there's random slits on the sides here, which I don't think I've ever seen in person before. Not sure how I feel about that, but it's nice to see that there's some creativity going here. We really can't see what else is going on there. I'm assuming what she's wearing is teal green shorts, but we do not know. The bracelets are a nice touch though, so we can't see much with Aisha, but I do like what I see, and I think it fits her nicely. Okay, moving on to Stella. Once again, the hairstyle pops out to me immediately. Her hair looks pretty similar to how it was done in the Mythic style, which is interesting. I wasn't the biggest fan of Mythics, which, if you saw my ranking of transformation video, where I kind of dunked on it a little bit, but I do think looking at the 2D renders of Mythics that it looks a lot better in 2D. I think it was the CG that made me not like Mythics so much. However, I do still think that they could have been more creative with the way they incorporated the theme. I would have loved to see each girl be based on individual fairy tales and things like that, but they didn't go in that direction, which is sad. But getting back on topic, I really do like Stella's hair here. The little bow ties on the side are really cute. It reminds me of a style that you see in anime often. The character that comes to mind instantly would probably be, I think, Ichigo from Tokyo Mew Mew has this style. Hopefully, I'm not wrong. Future me will correct me if so. And it's a really girly look that is very feminine and soft, which I don't think is something that we see that often with Stella, so it's nice to see some experimentation with how she looks. Similar to Aisha, we can only really see her top, although based on right here, it looks like this might be a dress. Not sure. The cutout right here makes me believe that it is one though, but I could be wrong. Like I said, I don't have the biggest knowledge in fashion, unfortunately, but from what we can see, once again, I do really like it. It's giving me vibes of her Magic Wings transformation, which is a great nod and callback to the original season. It has her original colors, orange and blue, which look great on her. And I just feel like the overall shape and silhouette of the torso is really pleasing, the way it goes out in multiple different directions. And it just looks like a pretty cute outfit so far. Although, if it is a dress like what I'm assuming, then it looks like it's a bit different from the rest of the Winx. So it really seems like they're going for more of a girly style for Stella, which I'm actually for. Moving on, let's look at Bloom now. Nothing too special seems to be going on with her hair. It's just her signature style, really. I'm not sure how I feel about this beret here. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to look like a flame, but it doesn't look that good to me, in my opinion, and I think it'd look even worse if it were like actually um, made in real life. I do think the that having a pin here would probably pull the look together, although she does have bracelets here, so that might be a bit overkill. But regardless, not a fan of the beret here. But um, once again, getting some nostalgia from the overall look. Her top, which is layered over a shirt, is very similar to the style that she had in season 2, I believe, of Winx Club, which is actually one of my favorite outfits of hers personally. Has the same colors, same general style going, and I think it just fits her nicely. Although, like I said, not a big fan of the beret, and I also am not sure how I feel about the bracelets too, honestly. I think they could have done better with the accessories. I think Stella's and Aisha's accessories fit them better, which is a bit of a shame since she's the main character, but alas, you can't win them all. Now for Tekna. Tekna, we got an interesting look going on here. So she still has her short hair. Hooray. And she seems to have the most creative hairstyle out of the bunch so far. So I can't tell if she has 3 braids or if it's 4, like a group of 2 here and a group of 2 here. I think it's 3, although it's kind of positioned weirdly if so. But yeah, she basically has pigtails. 3 of them, it appears, but they're done in short braids, which is a pretty unique look, which I think suits Tekna pretty nicely. This hair to the side here, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I think it does work, but once again, similar to Bloom, I'm not sure how I feel about this particular style of clip. I'm not sure how I'd improve it, but somehow it's not meshing for me personally. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but we can actually see more of her general outfit here. We got a crop top, long sleeve, and I can't tell, but it looks like there's a heart cut out with nothing underneath. That looks like skin tone to me, which is probably one of the more showier in terms of skin outfits that we have here, which is surprising since a lot of people were worried that this would be more like kid oriented. But I do think it's a cute cutout regardless. And it's in signature green, which fits Tekna nicely. And it looks like she has some sweatpants underneath it that have stripes going down them. Don't really have much to say there, but I do think it fits the top really well. I like her top and leggings, but once again, I feel like the accessory game is kind of weak here. The necklace, I think it might look better if this were different. I think the necklace, I like how it looks, but I think it's too much green from my knowledge of fashion from trying to draw. Is typically you either try to break up colors or go completely like all in on one. So, like for example, with Stella, we have orange, then it gets broken up by blue. We have orange again, then it gets broken up by blue. And yeah, you can see it with some of the other characters as well. Whereas with Tekna, there's just green and green all in relatively the same place. And this almost looks like it's a part of the shirt when I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a necklace. Yeah. So if it were up to me personally, I'd probably change the color on that to match this, maybe. so that it'd be broken up better, but I like the overall look that they were going for Tekna. It might be changed slightly since this is just a teaser, but I felt like it could have been polished slightly more. Okay, let's bounce down to Musa. Musa's got some ponytails going, really similar to her ponytails in Enchantix, so yay! They look really nice, and it's kind of, since they're really long and slightly curly, it's given off kind of Sailor Moon vibes. Obviously, it's different. She doesn't have buns, but it's a very cute look, and I think it fits her nicely. And she's always had pigtails since the very beginning. They were just shorter to start off with. So, yay for the hairstyle. I'm all for that. And then her overall look, it looks like they're going into her kind of alternative style slash tomboy kind of look, which is great because that's part of her character. And it's nice to see that she has more of an individual style again. So I absolutely like the overall look that they were trying to go for. I love her shoes and her ripped jeans. It looks like they're high rise, which I personally do really like high rise pants. However, I feel like in this picture at least, it's not very flattering. It could be because of what it's matched with. I'm not sure. But it could look better if she's standing up. I don't know. But this top part too looks really, I don't know. I like what they were going for, like the red top. That's her signature style, and it is cut similarly to her original Magic Wings. And I like how it's layered with this vest here that looks to be denim from what I can see. However, similar problem to Tekna here. I feel like this is a little too busy here. We got the strap cutouts from the top and then also a choker here. And I don't know, it feels really busy to me, and I have no idea what they're trying to do with this bracelet. It looks like it's supposed to be a treble clef. I'm not sure, but yeah, not a big fan of the bracelets that I've seen so far. I like Aisha's, but these two I'm not so certain about. But overall, I like the look that they were trying to give Musa. Like I said, only complaint I really have is like this is a bit much for me personally. Now for our last fairy, Flora. We'll start off with hairstyle again. I really like the look of it. We got the iconic part that kind of forms a triangle here with her blonde streaks, blonde highlights, excuse me. And she's also got some really long braids going down, which isn't super unique, but I think it looks really good on her. The top is super, actually, not just the top, this whole outfit is super reminiscent of her original casual outfit in season 1 with a pink top with puffy sleeves going. It was cropped too originally. And then she paired it with a skirt. I can't tell because this image is enhanced and it could have been changed, but it looks like there might be leggings here, which is different. I like the look that they were going for. It's really a softer look with muted colors. The pink and green fits Flora nicely. And it seems like they were trying to be more creative with trying to make simple designs more intricate all the way around. However, once again, kind of weird section right here. I have no idea what they're trying to do. Is this a sash? Is this cut out? And this is her skin here. I really can't tell in this image. Um, yeah, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. Like I said, it is creative, but I don't know if it's something that I like. um, for a bracelet, I do think I like it more than some of the others, like blooms. But yeah, feel like these areas here are not what I would personally like. But once again, that could be just me, and I'm not really sure how best to describe how I don't like those areas. Since, like I said, I'm not super knowledgeable in fashion, but I do like the overall silhouette and style that they were trying to give her. So, overall, I really do like how each Winx seems to have more of an individual style going on. And I do think that the looks themselves were a lot more creative in general. And even though there were a few things that I harped on a little bit, to be clear, I do not love every single outfit in Winx Club. There are outfits in the first few seasons that I do not really like, and that there'd be things that I'd want to change. So I think overall, the looks that we got here were really good since I liked the majority of it, and there were only a few things that I sort of was nitpicky about. But if this is the kind of fashion that we have to look forward to in season 9, then I personally am excited. So far, we only have 3 transformations. We have Stella, Bloom, and Flora. And I have a few images for these. They're not the highest quality, but we'll go through them real quick. And then I also have some fan art that someone made that I think will be a better way of looking at the overall look, since they did a good job at transcribing what we see here. But real quick notes. We can see this appears to be a base transformation like Magic Winx. It probably is, honestly. We got similar vibes going from their Magic Winx. This, honestly, Flora's look kind of reminds me of a mixture between her Magic Winx, Charmix, and Enchantix with her hair, and how this is a full piece dress. And then for Stella and Bloom, I noticed in the comments one thing that popped out to a lot of people is that now Bloom is the one in shorts and Stella has a skirt instead of the reverse. And I think it's a nice change of pace. They look nice, and the skirt seems to fall in line with Stella having more of a feminine and girly look going. Also, what's interesting is the wings. First off, their shape. They look a lot bigger in the style. I don't think they are, but it appears that way. And also the shapes within them are interesting. This reminds me almost of stained glass here. And then for Flora's, it looks like petals layered on top of each other. In this particular image, it looks like Stella and Bloom's wings are very similar, and I hope that's not the case because I like how we're getting individuality between these two here, and I hope that's something that we can keep up. And it also seems like they're mixing elements of Charmix in, since we have these what appears to be bags. And interestingly enough, each fairy here at least has crowns on top of their head, which for Magic Winx is something that I believe only Bloom had, but everyone had it in Enchantix. So I think it's interesting how we're getting a mixture of different elements from multiple transformations in these teasers. Let's look at some more images. We also have this. You can't really see much. However, I did notice something. Bloom appears to be quite a bit different here. If you look at her top here, it goes kind of up diagonally, Whereas here, it's off the shoulder. So it looks like there were some elements that changed, which means that they could change even more before we get the official version. This is an up-close version of that. So yeah, you can see what I mean. The top completely changed. I'm not sure which came first. So we'll have to wait and see which one is the official look. But you can also see a look at their faces. And considering this is probably like early rendering, not too bad. Could be better, but hopefully they will improve upon it. Okay, now in order to fully review the outfits, I pulled up some fan art here. So thank you to the artist for rendering this out so that we can get a closer look at them. So let's start with Flora. It looks like there's a little bit of creative liberty taken with the wings. They're a lot smaller here, but you get the general idea. The outfit itself is pretty faithful. Artists did a really great job. I really like their style. And like I said, this is a really faithful reproduction of what we've seen so far. And this transformation, honestly, I absolutely love it. I think Flora probably is my favorite so far. It's pretty much a revamped version of her magic winks in terms of the outfit itself. We got the green petal wings going, then we have the sleeves. The cut-off sleeves are essentially the same that she had before, but then her dress is elongated and ruffled, similar to her Enchantix dress, and everyone can probably agree that Flora's Enchantix is S tier. It is probably up there as possibly the best one. It's obviously up to preference, but it's one of my favorites, and I'm glad that they drew inspiration upon it for this. It suits her personality really well. This looks like flowers as well, like, oh god, I forget, hydrangeas? Yes, that's what the vibes that it gives me is. I like how it's cut right here. It has like a mature and elegant look while still being really feminine. And then the crown is super cute too. I also really like her hair here, especially her highlights, how they're made into braids and then kind of fade into the hair. And it's just a really nice look. And I can't wait to see it in action. Now for Stella. Stella's is pretty darn similar to her original Magic Wings, which is iconic, so nothing wrong with that there. There's only like a few changes, like the fact that she now has a skirt instead of shorts. I think probably the biggest difference wouldn't be with the outfit itself, although we do get these cufflinks. Is that what they're called? I forget. Not sure how I feel about the color, but we'll see if that gets changed. It could. The biggest standout would be the hair again. We got long, flowy hair, and this seems to be a theme with these three at least. We also have similar braids coming out in this section of the hair, which looks really nice. And I miss seeing Stella with bangs, so I'm glad that they're back. Overall, really like the look. Only grievance is not sure about the color here, but other than that, looks great. Okay, last but not least, Bloom. I'm not sure how I feel about her look just yet. Once again, it seems to be pretty heavily inspired by her original Magic Wings, except now we have more of a, I don't know how to describe it, more like clean cut version based off of the fact that this is now shorts instead of a skirt. And although we don't know which version we're going to get, there's some interesting cuts going on in the top half. Overall, I think Bloom's is kind of the most underwhelming of the bunch, but I don't have a problem with how it looks. It feels like it gives new life into Bloom's original Magic Winx, which I am for. It's kind of a slightly different style than what we normally see her in, but I'm okay with that. I just personally like Stella's and Flora's looks more, but loving the crowns for sure. They're super cute, and it's a cute nod not just to Enchantix, but also to the crown that Bloom had in her Magic Winx as well. And that's pretty much all I have to say in terms of the looks that we've seen so far. Overall, I really like the art direction that they've been taking. It looks reminiscent of what we associate Winx with, but still very new and fresh at the same time. And Rainbow has had other CG shows that I think work better than Winx Club in the past has. Like, for example, Mia and Me and Regal Academy, they made the CG work. And from what we've seen, I think they're going to be able to accomplish that with this new season of Winx as well. So, fashion-wise and transformation-wise even, I'm actually pretty excited for this season. Let's just get the negatives out of the way and talk about some of the fears that I have for this upcoming season. So, the obvious one that I think a lot of people are worried about is, will this upcoming season be more childish like Season 7 and Season 8? Unfortunately, I do think this is a very valid concern, considering the fact that these episodes are going to be short, and that's something that they've only done previously with shows targeted towards younger kids, and on top of that, Winx Club just hasn't been going in the direction that a lot of fans have wanted it to. So I can understand the concern that this isn't going to appeal to older fans at least, but that remains to be seen for now. Another fear that I have is bad villains, because we haven't had a good one for a while. Tritanus, I just laughed whenever I saw him because he was just ridiculous to me. His voice in English definitely didn't help the situation. Selena was interesting, but she wasn't really a villain per se. It was nice to see a witch get the spotlight, but the true villain of that season was Arsharon, and is that his name? I can't even remember how to pronounce his name because he mattered so little and was so non-threatening. For the newest season, the biggest complaint I had was, oh god, once again, I can't even remember the name because of how little this character mattered in the grand scheme of things. It was the minion to Valtor that everyone had a heart attack over when they saw him because of how juvenile he looked. Yeah, I really did not like him at all. And then they completely ruined Valtor's like everything in season 8. The tricks were okay, but they still weren't up to par with how they were portrayed in earlier seasons. But it was nice to see them fleshed out more and explore Icy. That's the only nice thing I have really to say about villains for the past few years in Winx Club, though, unfortunately. And I have a feeling that if this keeps up, that there won't be a good villain for this as well, although there might not even be a villain considering that these are shorts. Which brings us to the next fear. Is 13 minutes enough? I am not sure. A lot of shows do this, however, they are not structured the same as Winx Club is. Winx Club has an ongoing story where each episode adds on to that story, so that if you started watching from a random episode, you'd probably be confused as to what's going on. Whereas most series that are split up into two 13-minute episodes, that's not the case. Like SpongeBob, for example, you don't need to follow a watch order for SpongeBob. But for Winx Club, at least historically, you do. And because of the fact that there's usually longer stories, it's hard to say if 13 minutes will be enough unless they completely reimagine the story, which is something that I'll get into a bit later. Another concern, will the CG deliver? From what we've seen, I think it probably will. However, it is still something that is uncertain, especially considering the history of 3D in Winx Club in the past. My main concern, I like how they look so far, but I'm concerned about how they will emote and how they will transform. Those are two things we have yet to see that could easily be messed up if not handled correctly. Another concern, because this is a reboot, I'm worried that they might change too much. I think that they should change some stuff since it's a reboot, and it'd be really annoying if they just like completely remade the series without change at all. However, there are some elements that I think should stay more or less the same. My concern is the professors. From the teaser image, it looks like they're still in Alfea, so I really hope that they keep the professors the same, because I think the professors are completely underrated and a huge part of what makes the original season so charming. I'm fine if they add some new professors. I think that's a good idea, but I swear, if they get rid of Wizkiz or Palladium or Griselda, I am not gonna be a happy camper. Last thing I'm worried about, I'm afraid that songs are gonna be used as padding. This is a short format, which means it's only 13 minutes. And Winx Club is known for having lots of insert songs. And I have a feeling that a lot of episodes could turn into mini music videos where half the episode or more is just a song. And although that might be fun to have every once in a while, that is something that could definitely be abused, and I really, really hope they don't go in that direction. But enough doom and gloom for now. Let's go over some things I'm actually hopeful about, or rather want to have in the upcoming season. I'm thinking that this has the potential to be similar to Barbie Life in the Dream House, which, if you're not familiar, is a like web short format series for Barbie that's a comical parody, which normally would turn a lot of people off because you want people to take the things you like seriously. However, although I didn't like it initially, I went back to Life in the Dream House and now I absolutely love it because I feel like the writers actually were fans and were making the series for the fans, which makes a very, very big difference. So if this were similar, where it's a comical parody of Winx Club, but it gives the fans what we want and also respects the fans, then I think it has the potential to be something really, really fun. For more of a positive take on the shorts, I do think that it can actually work. If you're looking for something similar to the original seasons, obviously it's probably not going to give you what you want. However, as a reimagining, I think there is potential. I think it'd be really fun to see shorts focusing on Alfea assignments, teachers, minor characters, parties, and going to magics. That'd be super fun, and it'd bring back a lot of the original charm that was in the first few seasons of Winx. There were episodes where they just focus on them living in the magic dimension or going to school. And that was personally one of my favorite parts of the first few seasons. And to have an entire series focused on that would be something that I'd actually really enjoy. And having it as a reboot would make sense because then they wouldn't be back in school for absolutely no reason. We'd be starting from Ground Zero. And honestly, this is kind of the direction that I hope they go in. I want it to be something more light-hearted that focuses on things that we didn't have time for originally. We can even see minor characters pop up and be more useful. So I don't think that the shorts is a bad thing if handled correctly. I have my doubts. I'm very scared, but hopefully it'll be handled in a good way. And I'm gonna start wrapping up. My cats are going absolutely bonkers. I had to do so many retakes, and hopefully they didn't butcher my audio too much. But those are my thoughts on the upcoming season of Winx Club. I'm really looking forward to seeing an official teaser for this so that we can get a better idea of what's to come. But honestly, I am hopeful. Very worried too, but still hopeful. I think this does have a lot of potential. What we've seen so far looks great. And I do think that a reimagining with shorts could be good. But that's just me. Your opinion could be different, so I'm curious to see what you guys think as well. What do you think of the new look? Do you think shorts could work? And how are you feeling overall about what we've seen so far? Please let me know in the comments down below. And that'll do it. My voice is getting tired and I can't control my cats any longer. If you'd like to join me on the journey to come and not miss out on any future videos, then please subscribe. I recently launched a podcast, It Feels Like Magic. It's available on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and I'm trying to get it on Apple. Maybe it'll be up by the time this is out. Basically, it's just a series where I go over the 4Kids version of Winx Club for the very first time since I've never seen it before. I started it off as a video series on this channel, but I decided that it also worked great as a podcast as well, so I'm doing both. A week or two after each episode goes onto the podcast, then I'll try to make a video edit as well for the channel. So check it out if you're interested. That's about it. Gosh, I'm pretty tired after this recording. I can't remember my outro because I'm so tired. Oh my god. One moment. Times can be tough, so don't forget to keep a little magic in your life, guys. Bye.